Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to another episode. I'm bringing you something a little bit different, sorta, kinda. In the past I did do an episode where I spoke about a tattoo design, a tattoo that I finished, and I just kind of went ahead and I broke down what I did in that tattoo. We're ultimately kind of doing another one of those, but I've decided to kind of turn this into a series that I'm going to call The Breakdown. And that is, of course, breaking down the tattoo that I already finished. So we're not really going to be going off of the design pre-tattooing it. We're going to be talking about the actual tattoo. We're going to be talking about, what it is, why I put things where I did, why I chose certain tones. Ultimately, just kind of breaking down the whole thing so you guys can have a little bit of a better idea of my thought process when I'm creating designs and why it is that I do what I do when doing that. Why it is that I tattoo things a certain way. Why I feel they have to be done a certain way. So, with that said, let's go ahead and dive into this piece here. This piece is this is a leg sleeve that I finished, I believe. It could have been either very, very early this year in January, or I may have finished it like the last week of December or something like that. But it's within that time period. So I'm sure some of you have seen this piece. This is I'm gonna call it like a Predator themed leg sleeve. And by that, so we have here, we have the lion, we have a tiger on the lower half, and then on the inside of the leg, we have a jaguar up top, and then moving on into the lower half, we have a gorilla. Now, I don't know if a gorilla is considered a predator. I haven't looked that up. All I know is they're big and huge and scary, and nobody messes with them. So I'm gonna call them a predator, and we're gonna put them at the top of the animal food chain here, at least in the area they're hanging out in. All right, let's start off with the front. So this piece right here, this is the lion. We actually started this piece maybe 3 years ago, give or take some time. Nick reached out to me. He said he wanted to do a full leg, and I said sure, we could absolutely do that. To do a full leg, you're maybe looking somewhere around like 8 to 10 sessions to get that done, and I think this ended up taking us about 10 sessions. But I said you're looking about 8 to 10 full days. It's not an easy task. It's not a cheap task either. And some people's legs are bigger. Some people who hit the gym a lot, their thighs, their legs in general are just like a lot bigger. And height and weight, all that stuff makes a difference. Nobody's legs is the same size, and nobody's legs are the same size as their arms either. Some people think that it's like basically the same process as a sleeve, or it's gonna feel the same. My opinion, and I feel this is most people's opinions, the leg actually hurts more than the arms. And there's certain areas on the leg that aren't really too bad, just like there's some spots on the arm that aren't really too bad. But then there's some spots on the leg that just freaking suck. So, around the knee, behind the knee, up top, kind of like below the butt cheek, inside of the thigh, the shin, down below, closer to the ankle. Some people say the calf hurts. So I guess the general consensus is pretty much it freaking hurts. So there's that. All right. Enough of that side information. We'll see if I even keep that in here. But okay. So anyways, he wanted to get started on the leg sleeve. And I said, okay, cool. Sounds good. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and break this down into sections. We're going to break this down one section at a time. And part of the reason for that is the whole leg can't get done in one go anyways. So let's go ahead and try to focus on what we can get done. So we started off with the line up here on the upper part of the thigh. The reason that I chose to do that, this side of the thigh right here, this section is a little bit more flat versus the front that rounds out a little bit more. The back is a little bit more flat than the front half, but then things are a little bit hidden right there. So why not put the king of the jungle right at the very front so it's the most visible? So putting it on the side. So we put it right here. It's flat enough that it doesn't warp the face. That's something you want to think of. Depending on where you're going to put the tattoo, does this area have a curve to it, and is it going to warp the face and make the face look a little bit funky? You want to watch out for that. You want to make sure that you can see as much of the image that is supposed to be seen. Clearly, what I mean by that is, if the hair is a little bit distorted on a curve, that's okay. Hair naturally moves. What you don't want is to see maybe part of the eye and then you don't see the other eye until it loops around, or maybe the snout looks a little wonky because one side's nice and visible and then the other side kind of has a little tilt to it. That's what I mean. And in order to create some sort of transition, to give it some movement, we added some foliage, because these things, they're living in the jungle, man. They're living in the jungle. There's gonna be some foliage around. They're gonna be popping out of bushes and stuff like that to attack their prey. So we got right up here, we got some foliage up there. Face is just kind of popping out. What I also did, I went dark, like in the drop shadow. I went dark below that. Like I mentioned earlier, to create that drop shadow for the face, it also kind of creates this separating contrast between the foliage and the lion. And the tone that I used in the foliage is pretty light. I think I think some of it is either my first lightest illusion or my second. I use about 8, I think. And so that was really light. And that just kind of helped create, ultimately, I guess, for up top, we could either keep it or not, but I think it gives the image something extra. So that's cool. And it helps kind of tie things in a little bit more with the rest of the leg. Expanding off of that, right down here in the bottom, we have some more foliage. And then I used one, it creates the transition for us to continue to move forward on the lower half of the leg and around. And I went ahead and I did some dark shading behind all of this piece right here, behind the flowers and between the two pieces. And we just used some of that dark shading to fade into the leaves right here, and then kind of, fade out from there. But again, that just kind of helps us blend all these images together. I went ahead and did some digging to go ahead and try to find the cleanest, highest quality photo that I could of a roaring lion. I wanted to do one at a little bit of this, like the 3/4 angle that's here. That's one of my favorite angles to do images if I can. The 3/4 angle, it provides like good contrast with like the shade, the shadow and light sources. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to the lower half of the leg. So this is the tiger. Well, luckily, Nick gave me free rein on the leg. He pretty much just kind of, which for the record, this always works out the best for your tattoo. He let me know what he wanted. He let me know what animals he wanted to include in his leg and how he wanted them to be. Like, some people request, oh, I don't want the lion or tiger, growling, roaring, showing its teeth. I want it to be a little bit more pleasant, stuff like that. So he kind of just said, hey, listen, I want to get this, 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 and this on the leg. And, you know, you go ahead and just, you make that happen. And so that's what I did. So he kind of gave me free reign on where we're gonna put stuff, how we're gonna position things. So when you take that approach, for the most part, it's gonna look good. So on the lower half of the leg, we did a tiger, kind of like a tiger kind of, you know, crawling forward, approaching. We got a little bit more of the foliage going down here, and there's some on the sides. Again, kind of tying in with what we did up top, which, you know, kind of helps. The reason I wanted to do a tiger in this position is because this part of the leg is more narrow and tall. I did not want to create just another face like I did up here with the lion. I didn't want to do that just down below where, again, it's more narrow, so I have less room. So how do I fit a tiger into the leg and make it look appropriate? And so, of course, that's where like the hours of scanning through, you know, these like wildlife photos of tigers. And then I found an image that would work. I did have to piece together a few images for it to be pretty seamless for this location. But it all totally worked out really well. You know, so we have the face up here, up front. It's the most, you know, prominent part of the tattoo. We have some heavy black behind it, some more shading right here. And again, the shading is to, well, one, of course, to make this back leg look a little bit further back. But it also creates the contrast between the tiger and the foliage. And then we got some darker shading right in this location. And of course, that's because that leg is a little further back on the tiger. So there's gonna be some more, you know, just shadow in that portion. And then moving on up here into the back and where the stripes are, as you can see, the prominence of the stripes tones down a little bit as we move away from the face going to the back. The reason I did that is I want the focus and emphasis to be right up front, right here in this location. The back of the tiger is just not as important as the front. It's okay if that's a little bit blurry. I kind of want it out of focus because I want the focus to be right here up front in the face of the tiger. So this location kind of fuzzes out a little bit. And you know, what's pretty classic with tigers is like cherry blossoms. So we went ahead and we threw some cherry blossoms right in here, and we got a little bit of kind of some smoke, some haze kind of going through there. I've explained this before, that smoke and haze is like pretty popular in like black and gray tattoos in that style. You'll see that a lot. So, you know, kind of threw that in there just to kind of give it a little bit of movement. So we have the tiger walking, crawling forward, and the flowers and the smoke helping us transition the two pieces together. Now let's move on to the inside of the leg.